Oh, hey. It's not saying I'm live yet, but I'm going to assume I am. What's up, everyone? Hello, hello. Okay, so I'm so excited to be jamming on the manual today. So I hope you're all doing super well as you can be right now because we need you to be able to show up. And part of that is self care. And part of that is doing what you can in your capacity and checking in about that because we're in this for the long haul. All of this social shift that's happening right now, the work with anti racism and Black Lives Matter, this is a long haul. And you need to be aware of that and do what you can to take care of yourself and take action within your capacity. Okay? And having said that, you know that you are capable of way more than you think. So, I am going to get my phone out here because what I realized is in this Facebook Live app that they have, which I think is actually working this time, I'm not able to see your comments pop up very easily. So if you're showing up, send me some love, show me some hearts, and send me some likes so that I know you're there because I can't even see it, right? And so, so make comments. Let me know that you are here. All right. So I wanted to talk today about the manual. All right. And what I mean by that is we all have a manual for how we want other people to behave. Okay. And this is usually a manual of expectations. So, what I mean by that is we want other people to behave a certain way so that we feel better, right? We want other people to talk a certain way, uh, do certain things so that we feel comfortable, right? Like, hey, Laura, what's up? Thanks for saying hi. Yeah, let me know you're popping on. Say hi, send me some hearts. Would love to know that you're here. And so, when we have this manual for how other people should be acting, it sets up a lot of expectations, right? And you may think, actually, no, I don't have that. I actually am really cool. I just let people be who they are. Well, let me offer a suggestion. Oftentimes, we think we don't have a manual, but it doesn't become obvious until someone isn't following it, right? And so, like, for example, I'll be like before my husband and I had a kid, I'm pretty independent. I'm not the type that like I need my partner around all the time. I used to be a climbing guide, so I'm used to not seeing my partners for like a month at a time, right? So people would be like, "How could you let your husband go off and do all that stuff?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't really care. I don't have a manual, right? Like he does his thing. When he's not here, I have so much other shit that I want to do and hang out with my girlfriends and stuff like that." And so but what I didn't know was I did have a manual, but you don't become aware of the manuals until the person isn't following it. So we had a kid and I had a manual, one that we had actually co-created. Like some of this stuff, like we talked about how things were supposed to be. But when that didn't happen, right, we ended up having a lot of friction because he had a manual, I had a manual, and we didn't even know it existed until our kiddo came. And that was about like how you show up when we have a kid or are things supposed to change or not, etc. So oftentimes you may think you don't have a manual, but you do. Okay? So what's an example of a manual? Well, with our partners, it could be like, I want you to buy me a romantic gift on our anniversary. I want you to text me whenever you're out on a trip before you go to bed. I want you to do XYZ. So it's a lot of these expectations that we have. And the reason we have them, and this is super important, everyone, the reason that we have these expectations is because we want to not feel uncomfortable, right? So we have this list, this thick manual usually of how we want people to act so that we can avoid feeling anxious or jealous, right? And the reality is that is not helpful, right? We have these thick manuals. We often don't show them to our people because first of all, we don't even know we're aware of it, but we also um, sometimes think like, well, if I show it to them, that's just giving ultimatums or, that's being too vulnerable. But, you know, if you have a manual, at least be aware of what those expectations might be and maybe share them. This does not mean that you get to demand them. Okay. So this is where my past teachings on boundaries have come up, right? If you go to, I think it's anaverzoni.com/boundaries hyphen training. If you go to there, that's my boundaries training. But I talk about how you can have this expectations and you can make requests for them, but you can't really force people to do it. That just does not work. It is just not cool within relationships, right? Adults get to do whatever the fuck they want. That means you get to do whatever the fuck you want, but that means also that other adults get to, including your partner. Now you can make requests. Hey, it's important to me that you do this on our anniversaries. Um, let me help you remember that. What would work? Can we like put it in your calendar or like how can I remind you? Yada yada. You can make requests, but then you got to let go, right? Now, this does not mean that you don't ever get to draw a boundary or that you don't ever get to have someone follow your manual, right? If something is really important to you, if it affects your emotional space, if it affects your physical space, like for me, I needed more help with raising my kiddo. That was affecting me physically, it was affecting me emotionally. I just needed more help. Like you can draw a clear boundary and you can say like, hey, this is what I need. And if this doesn't happen, this is what I'm going to do, right? So I had to do that. I had to be like, this is what I need. If this doesn't happen, this is what I'm going to do. And it's about you and your actions, not about forcing them to take their action, right? Like they get to decide still if they want to do that or not, but you can create a boundary so that you're able to take care of yourself. All right. Now, when you are looking at that manual, it's really important to understand that they have a manual for you too. And what we often see in therapy is a therapist will say, hey, what's your manual? And what's your manual? And let's compromise. But you know what fucking happens with that? No one's happy. Okay? No one is actually getting what they want. Oh, hey, Sally, what's up? Thank you for loving on the podcast. Yeah, so when we are in relationship and traditional therapy, by the way, I'm just like my hair's super wet. It's very early here and just got out of the shower just for you. Okay. So, um when you're saying, let's take both of our manuals and compromise, no one actually ever gets what they want. That's what's fucked up about the manuals, right? Ooh, that plane sounded like it was flying really low to our house. We live by a lake with float planes flying right at this time of year in Alaska. So, anyway, you want to just say, look, you get to do what you do. I get to do what I do. We can make requests about this manual. Like, it'd be nice if you picked up your fucking socks. It would be nice if you remembered to text me when you were on trips. It would be great. But that person gets to decide if they want to do it or not. You get to decide what you're going to do in response, and you get to decide if you want to be with that person or not. But you don't get to decide to change someone. Okay? How would you like it if someone did that to you? How would you like it if someone was trying to change you? You'd probably be like, fuck that, right? Like, love me how I am. I'm a queen. right? At least that's how you should be. I think I remember, as I stepped into my confidence in relationships, by the time like I met my husband, like he was like slacking or something. And I was like, look, I'm the bomb. Like, you better not take me for granted because I will just go. Like, this is how I expect to be treated, right? And so you get to do that. You get to make requests, but you don't get to force someone to follow your manual. That's your shit. That is you wanting the world to fit into a box that helps protect you from feeling uncomfortable. Okay. So you really need to check your mind with that because we can fall into this. No, 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 no. It's reasonable to ask this of them, right? This is reasonable to ask that of my partner. Um, sure, in your mind, but in their mind, it might not be. And they get to do them. So you really need to look at someone and accept them for who they are in relationship and make requests. But if they can't follow your dang manual, you need to do the work to be okay with it if you want to be with that person, right? I mean, that's essentially what happened with me and my husband, right? It was sort of like, okay, well, I made the requests. They're not changing. So, what do I want? Do I want in or out? And if I'm in, unconditional love. And I just want to emphasize that does not mean to tolerate bullshit. It does not mean to be okay with abuse or with toxic relationships. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying, who fucking cares if they're picking up socks? Who cares if they're a little messy? Some people are like, well, then I have to cook dinner. Well, then I have to do everything. And it's like, no, you don't. You could order out. No, you don't. Like, there are other options, right? And it's like, well, but I don't want to eat pizza every night. Okay. Well, that's a choice, though. We are constantly making choices. So I know that some questions might be coming up for y'all with this. So go ahead and type them into the comment box um, because that way I can answer them on this live. Because in about 20 minutes, I have to host one of my doctoral students that I've been mentoring is doing her big presentation today. So I'm going to help her set up and manage her anxiety. Okay. So if you have questions, ask them now so that I can answer them. Oh, hold on. My dog is wanting to come in. Hold on. Come here. Come meet everyone. Come on. Oh, she ran away. Apparently, she wants to play fetch and doesn't want to come in. Okay, but that can't happen because I'm here for you guys. So, we have the manual for how we want people to behave, become aware of it, be mindful of it, recognize that we cannot force people to do it, and that we need to handle our own shit, right? It's not other people's jobs to make us feel better. When we put it onto a partner that I need you to be responsible for my happiness, that is way too much pressure. Imagine if someone said that to you. But that's essentially what we're doing when we have these manuals. And we have them for everyone. We have them for children, right? Like, it's totally reasonable for me to ask them to do XYZ and not yell and yada, yada, yada. It's like, okay, yes. Like children are a little different because we are teaching them, how to sort of gain these skills. But we have a lot of shit that we project onto kids in a manual that don't actually make sense, right? Like, that pissed me off so much as a kid, right? I'd ask my mom, why? And she couldn't come up with a good fucking reason. And it's like, no, you don't get to do that to kids, y'all. You should have a good reason for why you are asking them to do something, and it shouldn't be just because you're an adult or because you're their parent, right? Like, manuals for kids have to have some legitimate reason behind why you're doing it. Okay? We also have manuals for strangers, right? How can we have a manual for a stranger? We don't even know them. Well, we have a manual for how we expect people to treat us. And we get into a lot of fucking trouble when we are projecting our manuals onto strangers because We don't know what's going on in their head. We're like, if you are going to be kind and respectful, this is how it should look, right? And so we're like, someone cuts us off on the freeway, and we're like, that's not part of my fucking manual, so I'm going to get all worked up about it, right? You don't know what's going on. That person is probably like, what if that person was doing the right thing? What if that person had a loved one in the hospital and has to get there on time? Or what if it was the wrong thing, but that person is super suffering deeply? Maybe they just got fired. Who knows? Let's give each other the benefit of the doubt, right? What if we did that? Well, first of all, that person would not be the recipient of your anger or rage. But also, look at what happens internally when we give people the benefit of the doubt when they're not following our manuals, right? In psychology, there's this concept called the fundamental attribution error. And the fundamental attribution error is when we attribute why someone's doing something to their character, right? And it's called the fundamental attribution error because we are usually wrong. We're like, that person did that because they're an asshole. That person did that because they're so amazing, right? Well, we're often wrong about that. So keep that in mind. Give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. Laura's saying, having to change my manual with my mother. Homebound with pandemic, relationship is changing due to her health. I knew the time would come, but it's hard to change my manual. Right. You don't even have to change it. You can let go of the manual, right? Because then we can get stuck in our head and try to figure out, what do I want to be in the manual? You can just not have one. So can you tell me a little bit more, Laura, about like how it's changing, like what kind of stuff needs to change, and that way I can help you a little bit more. So, really important to be able to come from a compassionate place, come from the present moment, and be able to give other people the benefit of the doubt when they're not following their manual. We take it really personally because we feel uncomfortable, and we're like, you made me feel uncomfortable. You didn't follow my manual, right? It's your fault that I feel uncomfortable. No, it's not their fault that you have a manual. And it's also not what they did or didn't do that's causing you to feel that way. And you're like, no, no, it is. Like, they were supposed to remember my birthday. Like, our manuals for our friends. Don't forget my birthday. Don't ever take my partner's side, right? Like, what are our manuals for our friends? No, it's what they did, right? No, it's your thoughts about what they did. Just like that freeway example I gave, right? Someone cuts you off on the freeway, your thoughts about them, what an asshole, like that is going to have you feel shitty. Someone cuts you off, you're like, oh, I wonder what's going on for them, right? And like sometimes I think, it's just to keep it funny in my mind, is I'm like, sucks to be them right now. Like they must be feeling kind of shitty, right? And so what happens there? Compassion, when we're trying to give them benefit, that we open up. We are feeling better when our happiness is not linked to other people's behavior or other people following the manual, right? So important to remember. Laura's saying, crazy dance. We are dancing right now. Yeah, for sure. It is. And our dance would be less crazy. Come here, Loma. Come here. Come here. Oh, she doesn't want it. Sorry, guys. I was trying to show it her to you because she's a super cute, like Ewok. She's adorbs. But anyway, it is a crazy time, and it's going to be less crazy if we can let go of our manuals and let people be. I talk about this in my podcast that's coming out tomorrow on how true allyship requires us to be willing to be uncomfortable, because a lot of white people have a manual for BIPOC, for Black, Indigenous, people of color, and they're like, They should not be rioting. They should not be doing XYZ. They should not be aggressive, yada, yada, right? Well, that's called tone policing. And that's a big fucking manual that started a while ago, hundreds of years ago, like based on white supremacy, right? Like trying to civilize people of color, BIPOC. And that's a manual that is ingrained in our society. And it's like, what happens when you focus on people following the manual is you're missing the message, you're missing the context. Just like when that person cuts you off on the freeway, you're missing that. You are missing what might be happening to that other human being. When we focus on the manual, we're not listening to the voices of the unheard, right? Of why, like there's anger, like whatever. Let go of the manual of how things are supposed to be and focus on, what is the message? What do I need to hear right now? How can I listen more deeply, right? So this manual thing fucks us up in so many ways. So Laura says, trying to have a more nurturing feeling for her needs. I knew this time would come, but having to reprioritize my life to her needs, time with teenager and their interests at odds with her needs, health, appointments. Right. So it sounds like you're needing to take care of her even more because of her changing health, right? So, and if that's wrong, go ahead and type that in there. But yeah, so the manual you may have had is like, mom is supposed to not need me as much. Mom is supposed to take care of herself, drive herself to her appointments, make her appointments, do all this stuff. Mom's not following the manual anymore. All of a sudden, she's behaving differently. She has different needs. And then that affects what's going on, right? That affects how we feel. So it can be, using Laura's example, thank you for sharing that so that other people could learn from it, Laura. Like, it could be like, okay, this is my manual for mom. There's a pandemic. Mom's needs are changing. I am being taxed by, having mother duties as well myself, etc. It's not that mom has more appointments. It's not that mom is more sick. It's not that she is needing more. That's not the reason for the negative feeling, the hard feeling. The reason is because of our thoughts about that, right? I'm overwhelmed. I don't have the capacity. It's too much for me. Those are the thoughts that are impacting our feelings because our thoughts create our feelings, which create our actions, right? They drive our actions and our results. Look, the reason that we do anything in life is because of how we think it'll make us feel. If we're suffering and we have some wine, we think it'll make us feel better, right? If someone is telling us something uncomfortable, we judge them or we push them away because we feel unsafe or insecure or defensive, right? We think that we are going to feel better if we protect ourselves. So the reason we do anything is because how we think it's going to make us feel. And we do it usually because whatever we're doing, we think is going to make us feel better. And we are wrong so many times about that, right? So remember that when you're in these times and you're having an uncomfortable feeling, it's actually not because of what's happening right now. It's because of your thoughts about it. And you can choose your thoughts. You can choose to reframe being in your house more. You can choose to reframe not being able to spend as much time with friends. You can choose to reframe if you really are too overwhelmed to deal with the Black Lives Movement. You can reframe that so that you can be more effective. You can reframe that so that you can come from a place that's more integrity with your actions. It is not what's happening that is making you feel bad, it's your thoughts about it. Some people in the Freedom School group have been sort of touching on the concept of white fragility. And it's like, yeah, Like if we were willing, right? If white people were willing to be uncomfortable, right? White fragility wouldn't be there, right? It's the thoughts about the situation. I can't handle this. This is too much. I can't deal with it, right? That creates the result of this white fragility. But if there were different thoughts about it, I can handle this. I'm open. I am willing to learn. Please teach me. Tell me about it. I'm open to it. Then then we come from a place of more resilience, right? Instead of trying to be afraid to be uncomfortable, we're coming from a place of resilience. So, this manual, for those of you that are hopping on later, we have this manual for how we want people to behave. Partners, children, friends. For white people, they have a manual for BIPOC, right? How you're supposed to behave. And we need to let go of those. We need to let go of the manuals because they do not serve us, right? They do not help us listen. They do not help us cultivate empathy and compassion. They don't serve us because we end up always trying to fit people into this box and get them to act a certain way. And that's not right to do. Adults get to do and be how they want to be. It's your job to manage your mind and your feelings. Now, having said that, I do want to remind you about self-compassion, right? And this is a very broad topic. I've got like 4 minutes, so I'm going to touch on it for you, but I encourage you to dive into it more. We have like a whole month on it in Freedom School, right? So there are 3 components to self-compassion. So when you are kind of pissed about someone not following your manual, first you do self-compassion, because until you've taken care of yourself and self-soothed, you're going to be way less you're going to, if you are not self-soothing, you're going to be more likely to react, resist, or distract yourself from whatever's happening, right? You're going to blow up at someone, you're going to push it away, or you're going to buffer with like alcohol or food or mountain biking or whatever, right? So self-compassion is key so that you don't need someone else to make you feel better. You can self-soothe. So the components of that are an awareness that you're suffering, right? Like, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now. I'm going to close this door. Hold on. Kiddo's awake. So, 3 components of self compassion. One is acknowledging that you're suffering and being aware of what is happening. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling rejected, feeling lonely, whatever it is, right? Second component, common humanity. I'm not the only one experiencing this. So many people are experiencing this suffering right now. So feeling that sense of common humanity that you're not alone. And 3, kindness to yourself, right? Soothing touch. You know, I like doing this. I like putting my hand on my heart. When I'm really losing my shit, I like to do this. Because I remember reading that it was good for puppies and cats. Like it's like their mother licking their face and stuff, and mammals really like it. And so I tried it and I was like, oh yeah, I kind of dig that. And just like soothing touch, right? Giving yourself a hug, it actually works. There's studies, right? Um, it's not like your brain goes, you're hugging your fucking self. It doesn't really matter. No, it actually works. There are receptors over our heart, over our lower belly that help us feel more calm when they feel a sense of warmth, like your warm hand, right? You can say kind words to yourself, like, I'm sorry you're so overwhelmed right now, Anna. I know that that person cutting you off just sucked. And here's what's really important. What do you need right now? What do you need right now? Right? Okay, I need to just take a moment, give myself a hug. I need to call a friend. I need to do something. So, those 3 components of self compassion, when you're all upset that someone's following your manual, do that. Because when you do that, then you're more willing to be like, okay, I'm good. I can take care of myself. Now let me look at this manual I have for this person in my life and how I want to let go of it. How I really want this person to be able to be themselves. How I really want a relationship where I can make requests and not control people and deal with my own shit around needing everyone else to behave a certain way before I feel happy, right? We'll have more capacity for that. That's emotional resilience. That's why self compassion doesn't make you wimpy. It actually helps you have more emotional resilience. So, you want to be able to practice that. You want to be able to look at your manual. You want to be able to let go of it. You want to make requests instead of trying to control people. And you can have clear boundaries about your deal breakers, about things that affect your physical or emotional space, right? But it's all about your behavior, not someone else's. What are you going to do as a result of a need being met or not met, right? You're going to stay or you're going to go, right? Like sort of a less dramatic explanation of like leaving a relationship, right? Would be like a friend. If you have a friend who's always late, you can be like, look, I'm going to wait for you for 10 minutes because I know that's how you roll. But if you're later than that, I'm going to go. I'm still going to love you. I'm going to accept you for who you are. You're going to be the late friend, but I'm also not going to waste my fucking time, right? So if you are always going to be late, let you know that if after 10 minutes you're not there, I'm going to go do some other awesome shit. Okay? And we're not going to have some dramatic talk about it or anything. That's my boundary. You see the difference? I hope so. Okay. Thank you, y'all, for showing up. I'm going to go and help my doctoral student who's doing her big presentation. I'm so excited for her. So if you have any questions about this, post them in the comments. I'll come back in and check on that a little bit later. And I will see you next week. And next week will be the last live one for June. I'm going to post some other stuff for you to watch on Wednesdays because I am going to go on a road trip and there's not going to be any cell service or Wi-Fi. I'm so excited for that. It's going to be awesome. And I'm going to give you some amazing content on Wake the Fuck Up Wednesdays. Okay? So if you want more of this, check out joinfreedomschool.com and hang out with us there. It is awesome, full of amazing rebel women doing this work on a very deep level. Mwah. Have an amazing week, okay? Ciao.